and welcome to another segment of the Thought Leaders Lecture Series brought to you by Space Center Houston and UTMB Health. Tonight we have a special panel discussion filmed during National Hispanic Heritage Month. Our guests discuss the many contributions astronauts, engineers, and other professionals with Hispanic ancestry have made to aerospace. Did you know the first Hispanic American astronaut, Chang Diaz, was recruited to NASA in 1980? His 22-year aerospace career included 7 space flights totaling more than 1,500 hours in space. He holds the record for the most space flights by an American astronaut. At UTMB Health, we are especially proud of our own Dr. Serena Onan Chancellor, the first woman of Cuban heritage to travel to space. Dr. Onan Chancellor started her career as an electrical engineer, then completed medical school and a combined residency program in internal medicine and aerospace medicine at UTMB. In addition to her intensive instruction in space station systems, spacewalks, robotics, physiological training, T-38 flight training, and water and wilderness survival training, she's logged 197 days in space and currently serves as the Associate Director of UTMB's Aerospace Medicine Residency Program. Both medicine and aerospace have advanced due to the many contributions of professionals from all backgrounds. Both NASA and UTMB Health have been fortunate to attract many of the best and brightest to their ranks, where we've all benefited from their expertise and talents. I am sure you will find tonight's discussion enlightening and inspirational. Thank you to our panel, and thanks to you, our audience, for joining us.
Buenos dias. My name is William Harris. I am President and CEO here at Space Center Houston, and we're so delighted to have you here for Culturas del Espacio and this incredible celebration. Let's give another round of applause to the mariachi. The purpose of Space Center Houston is to bring people and space closer together. And we have the honor of serving as the official visitor center for NASA Johnson Space Center. Here you can immerse yourself in the story of human spaceflight and space exploration as we house over 400 space artifacts and offer NASA tours to select Johnson Space Center facilities. We welcome more than 1.3 million visitors annually from across the world and offer STEM learning through our educational programs for children, adults, and students. How many of you have been here before? Raise your hands. Awesome. So glad to see so many of you have been here, and we hope that you'll come back again and again, because this is your Science Center, your Space Center Houston. As we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th through October 15th, we're thrilled to partner with NASA Johnson Space Center to honor this special time. This month is a vibrant tribute to the rich and diverse cultures that make up our communities. We are excited to hear from NASA professionals who will share their unique backgrounds and expertise with us, providing a valuable perspective on the contributions of Hispanic individuals to science and space exploration. It's a privilege to celebrate and learn from these remarkable voices in our field. I'm now delighted to call to the podium Dr. Diane Fullwood, who is the NASA Johnson Space Center Office of STEM Engagement Deputy Director. And she's also a former secondary classroom teacher, an aerospace education specialist, and has managed many student challenges, competitions, and curriculums throughout her distinguished career. She's a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority and enjoys singing, crafting, and motherhood. She's also a really fun person to hang out with. So please join me in welcoming to the podium Dr. Diane Fullwood.
Thank you. Good morning. I have the honor of bringing greetings to you from the Office of STEM Engagement at NASA's Johnson Space Center on behalf of Dr. Gamaliel Cherry, who is our director. Welcome. We are encouraged to see you here, so many people in the audience. We counted that there was about 350 students that we invited, and we understand also that there are additional folks as well as the general public, and we just honor you and we're grateful for you to be a part of this Hispanic Heritage celebration. Thank you. I'd like to take a few moments to share some information with you about some of the open opportunities that we have for students of grade levels, middle school, high school, as well as university students. On the screen, you can see here that we have opportunities for a summer internship that is open right now. We also have an opportunity that is directly targeted to middle school and high school students. It's called the App Development Challenge. This is a coding opportunity. How many people in the audience like to code and tinker with software and computer programs? I see a lovely show of hands in the top of the room. We currently have an opportunity for you to form a team and be a part of that competition. We also have an opportunity available that is called the Texas High School Aerospace Scholars. If you are a student who is a junior or a high school senior right now in the state of Texas, can I get a show of your hands? Wow. You are all eligible to participate in this opportunity. It is a series of challenges that you do virtually, and there is a possibility for you to have an all-expense-paid stay coming to Johnson Space Center for an on-site event during the summer months. We are also expanding that program in order to include opportunities for middle school students and for educators to support the students as they go through the opportunity. Does that sound exciting? Does that sound like something you guys might want to be a part of? I figured this audience might. So we invited some of our staff members to set up information tables just right outside the theater. So please be sure that you stop by and have a conversation with some representatives from the Office of STEM Engagement about these two programs and others. But I do not want to dismiss or omit any opportunities that are available for university students. We have a number of what we call Artemis Student Challenges that challenge university students at all levels to answer some of the questions that NASA is facing right now. You can see some of the opportunities there. NASA Community College Aerospace Scholars is currently looking for participants, as well as our Suits Challenge. It's a university challenge that is is another software development program. We also have an opportunity for students to take some of NASA's intellectual property and turn it into a commercial product and do a space pitch for funding. That's called MITIC, the MITIC transfer activity. And then last but not least, we have an opportunity for students to design tools that are suited for spacewalking and can be tested in our neutral buoyancy laboratory. So all of these opportunities are currently open, and the way that you can go about applying is going to our website, stem.nasa.gov, and putting in a profile in our NASA STEM Gateway. I hope to see an application come through with your name on it. And now I have the privilege of introducing our panel moderator, Arturo Sanchez. He is the director of the NASA's Johnson Space Center External Relations Office. Arturo is a native Houstonian and completed a graduate internship in 2000. He had the chance to work in the federal government and private sector, spending 6 years at Texas Instruments before returning to JSC in 2012. He's active in our community and has served as an elected official on the Clear Creek Independent School Board District since 2017. Please help me welcome Arturo Sanchez.
Well, good morning, buenos días, and welcome to Culturas del Espacio. Dr. Fullwood, thank you for your remarks and for your introduction. William, thank you always for welcoming us here to your space here at Space Center Houston. And what a great way to begin today's session. I am honored to be with you today and excited to introduce you to a few of our very talented Hispanic employees from NASA Johnson Space Center. Before we get started, I also invite you to join us for two more panels later today that will highlight NASA's Hispanic workforce. One that is focused on women and one that is focused on interns and early career employees. As we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, we recognize and honor the cultures, contributions, and legacy of American citizens whose ancestors were from Spain and Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. NASA develops and creates original content in Spanish, like a podcast series, Universo Curioso de la NASA, and the NASA en Español website, which includes Spanish language social media accounts, videos, feature stories, and education curriculum. We do this to make content about NASA more accessible to Spanish-speaking audience and to inspire the next generation. And at NASA, we call that the Artemis generation. NASA needs everyone, including members from the Hispanic community, to accomplish hard things like sending people to the moon. As communicators, engineers, scientists, astronauts, and so much more, members of the Hispanic community contribute to our agency opening doors for the next generation. Our workforce's talents and backgrounds, perspectives and experiences allow NASA to create and foster a workplace where differences of opinion are thoughtful, critical conversations happen, and lead to the best strategies and solutions. As you hear from our panelists today, you're going to see exactly what I mean. So without further ado, let me introduce our panelists. I will simply share their name and title because there's no one better to hear more about themselves than from the panelists themselves. So immediately to my right, Diana Trujillo, she's a flight director here at Johnson Space Center. Angelica Garcia, she's Simulation and Graphics Capability Manager. Alicia Barroni Cortez, Minority University Research and Education Project Integration Manager. It is a long title. You get the longest title, Alicia. Pedro Lopez, Spacecraft Safety Technical Review Board Commercial Crew Program. And Eric Chidas, S-Band and Emergency Comm Subsystems Manager, Orion Program. So we're going to get started, and the first question, and each of you will get the chance to do this, and we'll just go down the line, starting with Diana. Diana, if you'll tell us about yourself and how your Hispanic heritage has shaped or impacted you personally.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Very happy to be here with you all. Like he said, my name is Diana Trujillo. I'm a flight director here at Johnson Space Center. Very quickly here, my career really has been split into two celestial bodies. It has been Mars for about 15 years and now human spaceflight. In both of them, I had the honor to be mission lead for Curiosity Engineering and Perseverance, which are big rovers with laser beam eyes, nuclear power, and a helicopter that flew for the first time on Mars. And now I get to work with the astronauts and the flight control team, doing ISS day-to-day operations, doing science, and solving a lot of problems, really, because every day there is something new that we need to do. With respect to my heritage itself, I'll say I'm born and raised in Colombia. I lived in Colombia until I was 17. English is my second language, so I still think in Spanish. And if I'm really in the middle of a conversation and I'm really into it, you'll hear me say, pero, and then I realize I need to switch back into English. But It helps me a lot. I mean, I love coffee. I'm Colombian, so I'm constantly talking really fast, and you'll see me moving my head as I'm talking, and I know where I want to go. And sometimes there is that moment of, oh, I'm the only one doing that. I'm the only one standing. I'm the only one dancing while I'm trying to explain something. But, you know, that's who I am. My cultural background has helped me realize that, you know, in my family, there wasn't the option of, let me buy another thing that broke, so I'm going to go for something new. In my family, it was just more like, it broke, and your abuela will tell you, well, mija, you got to fix it, because otherwise we don't have it. And so that gave me the mentality of resourcefulness. So go ahead and try to fix it, figure out a new way of doing things, which helps me a lot in my job. When I get the astronaut calling down from space station saying, hey, I cannot move this rack, it's very easy for me to think, okay, I know exactly what we need to do. Let me pull my team, let's not quit, let's keep going. So I think that, as you can see on my slide, I use everything that I have learned in my life, from my heritage, from my culture, from my abuelos, from my mom, from my dad, and I bring it to work every day. I don't keep pieces of me at home and bring pieces of me at work. I just bring my whole self to work. And everybody knows that. And when people say, you know, Diana, I say Diana, and I correct it because it matters to me. It matters to me who I am and where I come from, and that has taken me to Mars and hopefully to the moon as well.
That's awesome.
It's on? Okay. Wow. First of all, I am so happy to be here, and I am so humbled to be here next to everyone. I feel like I'm still early career at NASA, even though I've been here for 7 years. And it's just such an honor to constantly be around great people and learn from great people and hear their stories every time I do events like this. So thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me be part of the panel. I'm Angelica Garcia. I am Ecuadorian, born and raised. I moved to the States when I was around 8 or 9 years old, and Spanish is my first language as well. I don't necessarily think in Spanish every single day, but I do math in Spanish, which is really annoying. So if I ever have to do quick math in my head, I have to do it in Spanish first and then translate it in English, which is super frustrating, but it's just something I've learned to live with. A lot of times at work, I kind of have to stop and think, because I think too fast, and then I'm like, how do I translate this in terms that people can understand me, right? And in terms that I'm not switching back and forth in languages to explain things, right? So just the culture thing, I can totally relate in so many ways. So let me tell you what I do. I am a simulation and graphics capability manager. What does that mean? At NASA, we have so many different training systems, and we simulate and develop these amazing graphics to not just train the crew that are going to fly to station and potentially to the moon, but we also train the flight controllers, the engineers, the experts that need to learn these systems in order to train the crew to safely do what they need to do in space. And so it's a huge job, because we need to get a lot of people working, right? A lot of teams that don't necessarily like to talk to each other. I have to make sure that our graphics developers are talking to our simulation developers, are talking to our facility operators, and making sure that everything works correctly when that student comes into our facilities to learn how to run a simulation and how to know how to fly the jetpack in space, how to drive a rover in the moon, how to land a lander in the moon. And so I think my culture and my experience growing up in a Hispanic household has taught me to be really loud, be really friendly, and make a lot of connections. So be able to talk to people with different backgrounds, different personalities, and be able to bring people together so that then we can create the really cool things that we have. I absolutely love what I do. Like I said, I've been here for 7 years. My journey was a little bit different. I actually thought I wanted to do airplanes. When I took classes to do space systems, I was kind of scared. It was really hard, I'm not gonna lie. But as I interned and as I had great mentors, I was able to change my career path and ended up here, and I've loved it ever since.
Hello. Oh, it works. Okay, good. Alicia Vaderoni Cortez, pleasure to be here with all of you. I think I'm the only non-technical person up here, meaning I don't have an engineering degree. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and my father is from Mexico, from Veracruz, and my mom was born in Detroit. And I did not think I would ever end up working at NASA. This was not my career aspiration. It was completely a surprise that I ended up here because I had no idea what I wanted to be. I didn't have any role models of being a scientist or an engineer or going off to college when I was young. But my father did impress upon me how important it was for me to go get a 4-year university degree. I would get letters. So my parents divorced when I was young. I would get letters from Mexico, where he went back, and write these to me. You must, I was 9, 10, you must get a 4-year university degree. I had no idea what that even meant. But I was, okay. So sadly, when I was in middle school, he passed away. So I no longer had that influence pushing on me. It was a tragic car accident in Mexico. And so all I had was these letters and this mission to go get a university degree. Well, being raised by a single mom, she made one really smart decision and put me in a private Catholic all-girls high school. I didn't think it was very smart at the time. I thought it was the worst idea ever. But that put me around a lot of college-bound rich girls who all had this very clear vision of going off to college. So I said, well, I guess I should do that too. But even when I got there, I wasn't sure what to do. I loved science. I had a great 8th grade science teacher, one of those science teachers where you go in with the lab with the black tabletops and the aquariums full of creepy crawly animals and fish, and we would dissect owl pellets, and we would, do things with pendulums, and it was amazing and fun. So when it came time to pick a major, I ended up picking education because I thought, well, maybe I can be inspirational to the next generation of kids coming behind me. And then I found out that NASA has that interest too. NASA also wants to inspire students in STEM. So that's what I do here at NASA, is I work for a project called the Minority University Research and Education Project. And that allows me to create the opportunities for students that I didn't have as a first-gen student.
Okay, so my name's Pedro Lopez. Let's see, so like most people here, I guess Spanish is my first language. I was born in Mexico, a very small town, about an hour away from Monterrey, called Montemorelos. Got to the States back in 1990. I was 13, I believe, when I got here. And I've been working at NASA since 2007. So I think I've been the longest, maybe, here, out of everybody here. So I've had a chance to work on different projects, as you can see. So starting with actually ISS, so the space station first. I spent there a year there, and then worked Space Shuttle until its retirement. Got an opportunity to work on the concepts of what became what we now know as Gateway. So we worked on different concepts for that habitat and the space station. Then spent a couple of years on working Artemis missions, and now doing commercial crew program. Let's see. So yes, let's talk about my heritage. So one of the things that I guess that is very common, especially from where I come from, we are very positive. And so even when there's a lot of things going against us, we always try to focus on those little things that are positive that can help us move forward. When I got here, since I didn't speak the language, I was sent back from 9th grade to 6th grade. And so I had to recover those 3 years, and so I had to focus on the positive. And so there were always those people, there were teachers, there were counselors that went out of their way to help me. And so I held on to them, worked hard, and recovered those years. So yeah, I guess if I want to say something about my heritage, being from Mexico, being from that small town of Montemorelos, it's that mentality of si se puede. And so we don't focus on the negative. There's always going to be those things. Just ignore them and always hold on to the positive. That's it.
Hi, good morning. So my name is Eric Chides, as Arturo Sanchez mentioned. I work with the Orion program as the subsystem manager for S-band and the emergency communication system and RF. And I'm also the current chair for the Hispanic Employee Research Group at the Johnson Space Center, just across the road here. So I've been working with the Wireless and Systems Communications branch for about 3.5 years now. And essentially, even though it feels like it's relatively new, working as a full-time staff at NASA, I actually started working at NASA since 2012, actually, since I was an intern. So between that time period when I started as an intern and then when I came back eventually as a full-time staff, I kind of explore around different parts of the country and in the industry. But for me, I think working for NASA has always been kind of a calling. For a while, I was actually in the Northeast area in Boston, Massachusetts, and I kept thinking, you know, the good old days working at NASA, like I miss those days. But I think working anywhere is awesome, especially in the aerospace industry. That you know, definitely we're going to talk a lot of great things about what it is like working here, and we want to encourage, of course, the students to work there. But essentially, kind of tying back to why it really has felt special for me working at NASA is, and I guess kind of tying back to the question as to, you know, what my Hispanic heritage means to me. I always think of something that's very important, I think, in Hispanic culture, the essence of family, familia, I guess. I think growing up, my parents always had they provided essentially that strong essence of just always being there for me, for my siblings. So we're not a small family, but I have a younger brother, a younger sister, and an older sister. So my parents, my mom and dad, always tried to just kind of provide us the best guidance to make sure we always go in the right footsteps, and then just, you know, basically giving us what we needed, but also encouraging us to be able to succeed and really go out there. And it's crazy because the first 20 years of my life, and I forgot to say that I'm from El Paso, Texas, I'm a native Texan. The first 20 years of my life, I guess I didn't really travel much, but right around my college years, around the time when, you know, I started going to college, I started to travel more, especially when I started to look at different internships, conference opportunities. And it really is awesome. I thought it was awesome at the time. And one of the things that I want to provide the best advice to everyone is, you know, don't be afraid to go out there, to travel, to push yourself to do something that's, you know, outside of your local area, especially for the students that maybe you guys are just, you know, right now you're just going to school, maybe trying different electives, different classes, especially once you get into your high school years, once you start doing your research, what colleges you want to go to. Definitely, you know, if you want to go somewhere that's 100 miles away, 1,000 miles away, don't be afraid to do it, because you'll be surprised with the amazing things that you can do. And eventually, you'll be able to find yourself in the place that you want to be. For all of us, that place was NASA, but for you, it can be working anywhere, any different company. I would definitely encourage everyone to do that. But I think for the most part today, that's what we're going to be talking about, and we're here for you guys. We want to be able to encourage you guys to do what you need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you all for your responses. As I was hearing you share whether Spanish was your first language or if you think in Spanish, I couldn't help but stop and think that when I thought in Spanish was when I was getting in trouble. Because usually as a kid, I heard my mother, Arturito! And I knew this is about to go down. So I thought in Spanish, but only when I was in trouble. So
I will say in my house, that is when Spanish is spoken most often.
yes,
When my
yes.
children are in trouble, that's.
yes, and we amplify and our voice goes up and you know something is about to happen. So it's a great motivator though, family. So let's go to the next question. Diana, this one is for you. As flight director and as a woman in STEM, how does your background influence the way you work day to day?
So, okay, so as flight director, just to give you a little bit of background as to what we do. So the flight director is the leader of the team who's responsible for the International Space Station operations and the science throughput that we're gonna do that day. So my team consists of all the astronauts that are on the space station, as well as the flight controllers that know all the disciplines of the space station itself, so all the subsystems. We also train with your team, which sometimes fails us, because we need to train more. But what we do in general is what's the goal, what's the mission objective for that day, how do we actually also make sure that we keep the astronauts safe, so when we talk about emergency comm, that also plays a big role in our operations every day, the vehicle safety, and then the mission itself. Now, how does that actually, as a Hispanic woman, how do I get influenced by my background on this? Lots of problems all the time, which is why I love my job. So when I was doing Mars stuff, every day we drove somewhere. It was the first time we saw the landscape, and it was the first time that we will ask questions about a rock, or maybe there was water before, or maybe there was something that we didn't understand that helps us understand the universe and our place on the universe. Today, what we do is how do we actually execute on the science that we have brought in so that we can expand the human understanding and humanity in general. But there's always problems, which is why I love it. And then going back to your point about si se puede, it's si se puede every minute. So there's a problem, si se puede. And having that desire, inspiration, and really the drive to not quit is something that I think is very much ingrained in our Latino blood. Because for me, I came to this country as an immigrant, and there was no way in my mind that I was not going to do what I wanted to do, because there was nothing else if I didn't, right? So understanding that understanding for me that my Hispanic perspective of I can give everything I have all the time, every minute, we can make it happen. Very friendly, like you were saying as well. Here is my team. We all gonna figure it out today. And we walk as a family at work and obviously at home as well. So all of those things together help me do my job as an ISS flight director every day.
Thank you. Thank you, Diana. Angelica, the next question is for you. How is virtual reality evolving to play a role in the future of human spaceflight?
When I saw this question, I was excited because I feel like we don't talk about this enough, and the history of it is not well known. In one of my slides with the pictures, I had a picture of one of our crew members on station using a virtual reality headset. And the truth is, we've been using virtual reality for many, many years, which I didn't know until I came to NASA and started working here. I did a master's degree with a specialization in virtual reality, and when I joined, I started at the virtual reality training lab. Little did I know, we have been using that technology since the 90s. So NASA here at Johnson Space Center had been developing their own headsets. When the first Oculus headset, before it was Meta, they would gut the development kit headsets and create their own. Back when the technology was hundreds of thousands of dollars, we were using it to train crew as the station was being put together to visualize all of the station to get ready for their spacewalks. And so I was shocked. I was super excited, but I was also shocked that that technology had been around for so long. And as new headsets started coming out, the technology started getting better, computers get smaller and smaller, the technology just keeps growing and it keeps gaining popularity and it keeps getting more people engaged, which is amazing because we need to get ready to go to the moon, right? And we need to be able to train crew without a full set of flight controllers and a whole mission control there at every single moment, every single day. They need to be able to do a lot of things on their own and think on their feet. But we also need to start developing systems so that they could do that. And virtual reality and mixed reality is such a great technology for that. We are developing systems today to help them do things in station, and we are thinking ahead in the future of how can we do this for Artemis? How can we do this for Beyond? How do we do this when crew's going to be on the lunar orbit for many, many months, up to years? How do we handle this? How do we train them? How can we not just make them really efficient at their job, but can we do that and bring them closer to home? And that technology is just perfect for that. So I just see it growing. I see it being more adaptable into all our systems. And I see, you guys, the Artemis generation, really helping us with that because you guys grew up with this technology. You guys are really used to it and know exactly how to use it. Some of you might be developing for it, which is amazing. So yeah, I just think it's going to keep getting better and better.
Thank you. Thank you, Angelica. Pedro, this next question is for you. How have your life experiences as a Hispanic male shaped your leadership style?
Let's see. I'm not sure about being a Hispanic male, but basically Hispanic. So I've had different opportunities to lead different projects. And so I've been getting more experience throughout those opportunities. And so going back to shuttle, so when I was working space shuttle, I don't know if maybe you guys are too young for that. Right after the Columbia accident, we were looking at modifying the external tank, the orange tank that had all the liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen. And so we had to make some changes, and for some crazy reason, I was chosen to be the lead for a wind tunnel test that we needed to perform for the modification. And so being 20-some years old when I did it, working with people that were already retired professors. So it was something completely different. I guess it was we all have abuelos, abuelas, and we know more or less how to deal with them and how to talk to them, right? And so this was basically something like that because that's one of, I guess, somehow the way I was being treated by some of them as a grandkid. And then working, let's say, for Artemis and for Gateway, leading all of these experts in all of their, whatever, thermal structures and all of that. So just working with them, getting them all together so we could come up with the perfect concept for what the habitat was going to be for the space station that we were going to use, or the spacecraft we were going to use to go and grab a piece of asteroid and bring it to an orbit around the moon, which is now Gateway. So in that sense, it was kind of like working with my cousins and working with my tios and trying to figure out, okay, so what's the best way to just have a good carne asada? Who's going to bring things like that, right? And so in Nuevo León, we do carne asadas pretty much every weekend. Anyways, and so now working, so what I do now, the title of the Safety Technical Review Board, it doesn't really tell you much, but basically what we do is we look at any mission. So commercial crew, we look at the missions for SpaceX and for Boeing. We look at the mission, we look at all the things that could go wrong, and then we look at all the controls that we have. We verify those controls, and then we say, yes, this hazard, this risk is controlled, and we can safely fly. And so as the chair of the board, I am the one that has the responsibility of signing those things. And so now I feel like the dad. So now I got to make sure that all my kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing, because it's my name, right? It's my name that's on all those hazards. It's my signature. And so when we go to, and we say, yes, we're ready to launch, it's again, it's my name. I am the one that's saying that we are ready to fly. And so, yeah, again, throughout the different, throughout my experience at NASA, I've used my Hispanic heritage to kind of deal with different members of my family, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Pedro. Yes, Diana?
If I may add something that you just said for the folks in the audience. So two things that come to mind. One of them is, si eres metidita, if you always want to know what's going on, because I'm metidita, that's actually really great. You know, for us, metidita, what's going on is the equivalent, because you made me think about it, is curiosity, right? You're curious about what's happening.
Como chismosas.
Chismosa, okay. Metidita. Si eres
It's a good thing, it's a good
chismosito or si eres metidita, it's good because you're curious. What it really means is like, what's going on? How does that work? Tell me more information. I want to know how it comes together, right? And if your brain works like that, right, you can totally use that in STEM. You can totally use that in technology because a lot of the things that we do, that's what we're asking. How does that work? And give me more information. And so does somebody ever knows how this works? And so that's one. The other one is, once again, the concept of family. I know that for many of us, or at least for me, when you come to another country, your family gets smaller, right? Because it's the family that you bring. But it took me a while to open up to my family at work. And then when you get to work, if you translate that concept of family, where you are always looking out for each other, trying to figure out what each one of us needs, where you're bringing food and sharing with everybody, not just your culture, but your thoughts, that same concept in the work setting translates so well because it's all about the team. All the things that all of us do here are things that haven't been done before. And guess what? We don't know the answers, but some of our backgrounds, independent of what background you have, bring some idea to the table that we can all weave together to actually do the solution that we need. So my flight team, so each one of the flight directors chooses a flight team. My flight team's name is Somos Flight, because you just reminded me of the fact that to me it's all about that, weaving everybody together and bringing everyone to the table as a family.
That's awesome. It's funny how Diana hears Pedro and she thinks of metidita, and I heard him and I got stuck on carne asada because I'm thinking barbecue. So we all think differently and we hear differently.
Yeah. My wife loves fajita and my two daughters love pastor. And so every time I make tacos, I have to make those two.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'll be there. Okay, Alicia, the next question is for you. What path did you take? You talked about this a little bit earlier, but maybe you can share some of the stops along the way that got you to where you are today at NASA.
I loved what Eric said earlier about branching out and being open to going different places and doing different things. My path here was not direct at all. Johnson Space Center is like the third or fourth NASA center I've worked at. There are 10 NASA centers. A lot of people, especially if you're from here, you think Johnson's the only one. No, there are 10. So I've worked out at Ames Research Center in California, Glenn Research Center in Ohio. Most people aren't even aware there's a NASA center in Ohio. Here at Johnson, NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. So I think my path was not straight because I didn't exactly know. I didn't set my target as like, I'm going to go work for NASA. It didn't go like that at all. I decided to become a STEM educator, and as a STEM educator, that presented a lot of opportunities to me, and just having an open mind, saying like, okay, well, I'm a teacher now, I'm going to be a teacher for 30 years. No, keep that open mind, be open to opportunities, be ready for opportunities, prepare yourself to jump on them when they present themselves. And those of you in the room who are educators and are working with these students in these groups, you have an outsized influence on helping students see themselves in STEM, see themselves in these places and spaces, and that never stops. Arturo, you were one of the people that like sent some email to me a couple of years ago, like, hey, there's this opportunity for training Latinos on being board members and being serving the community. I never thought about being a board member. That sounds so fancy. Go be a board member on something. I'm not a board member, but Arturo said, oh, why not? Think about it. Check it out. So throughout your career, and that was just, recently. So throughout your career, people may tap you, throughout your education, people may tap you and say, hey, did you ever think about this? And maybe you never did, but you should. Just think about it, consider it, and be open to those opportunities and take the risk. Because I think that's where our heritage comes in, is like, we're immigrants. We're used to taking risks and making that leap and going into the unknown and forging a path for ourselves forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Alicia. Eric, this question is for you. What professional accomplishment are you most proud of?
Thank you, Arturo. So I think in a general sense, I want to provide a general perspective as to what I'm most proud of. I think here working at NASA, I would say is definitely working in cutting-edge projects, cutting-edge technology, essentially, that we really are a leader in the industry with our global partners, with our industry partners. And that's something that I think comes to mind very early. If you start, in my case, when I started as an intern, that's something I learned very early. So I want to provide 2 examples of that. The first example is when I was a Pathways intern at Kennedy Space Center, and as Alicia mentioned, I've been to several NASA centers, Marshall, Kennedy, and Johnson. But when I was at Kennedy Space Center, I had the opportunity to work on these software pages so that the engineers at the time will be able to look at all of the data and telemetry that were coming from the partner that we're working with, which was actually SpaceX. They wanted to ensure that the NASA payload they were launching at the time, which I believe was the Jason-3 satellite, was safe. And so coming into the project, 3 days since my internship started, Gary told me, hey, Eric, do you want to go on console to get some practice on how to work your pages? And I was like, sure. I mean, when you come into the job, of course, at NASA, it's expected that on day 1, you're going to start working. But it's exciting because, of course, essentially, you're there to do some work on awesome projects. And for me, that was a great opportunity because coming in fresh as an intern, it was just awesome working on that. And also, it was the first time I was going to see a rocket launch. So for me, that was just amazing. But fast forward to a more recent opportunity I've had. As I mentioned, I work for the Orion program currently. Very recently, actually just last month, we had the opportunity to work on the communication systems for the vehicle, essentially for performing what's called an RF compatibility test. For this test, especially because we are working with a vehicle that for the first time we're going to be sending a crewed mission to space since the shuttle days, at least in NASA's perspective. We want to make sure that those systems are ready to go for the mission. Our awesome astronauts for Christina, Jeremy, Victor, and Reed, we want to make sure that they're safe for this mission that's hopefully happening either next year or the following year. But we want to make sure that they're safe. But for me, I would say this is probably up to this point, and I know that I'm hoping to have more awesome accomplishments working at NASA. Up to this point, I would say that was probably the best accomplishment professional-wise I've had, because I got to work on an aspect of the mission that we're hoping to just perfect almost certainly, because we want to make sure that our astronauts are safe. Artemis 2, of course, there's a lot of exposure right now because we're going to be going back to the lunar orbit environment and then hopefully land there with the future Artemis missions. So for me, I would say just working on these projects, as I mentioned before, being in the right place, working at NASA, I think I'll continue to have those opportunities. But right now, these are just some examples that I think for me are my best accomplishments I've had so far professionally.
Thank you, Eric. So let's give some students the chance, and I'm going to read some questions that they submitted, but if they're here in the room, in the audience, if you'll please stand up so we can recognize you. So the first question is from Ryan Jones. He's from Madison High School. Ryan, are you here in the room? And Ryan's question is this event the first of its kind? And if so, what inspired the creation of doing this, and what are your goals or expectations for its future success? So I'll open it up to you. You want me to answer? So I'll say They're going to let me, now they're going to let me do it. So Ryan, I'll share with you that at NASA, the chance to share things that we have in common with people that come from the same communities, the same families, the same cultures, that may share the same language and the same cuisine, that foster a level of curiosity and courageous decisions come together at the Johnson Space Center every single day. And they represent a broad range of teams, from technical to non-technical. We call it mission support that enable the mission. And at the Johnson Space Center, we have employee resource groups, and people from across the center come together to share things that are very important to them. You heard about family, you heard about people maybe leaving their families from their home countries and being further away from blood relatives, but the chance to be with other employees who have that in common is very powerful when you're doing work and you may have questions about the content that you're working on, and the chance to speak with someone who wants to support you and wants to champion you and do it in a non-threatening way. It's an amazing support group that we have at the Johnson Space Center. And so celebrating these things with the public and with the students allow us to invite you in, because what we really hope is that you would consider coming and working for us at any of the NASA centers and any of the commercial space companies that are around today. And there will be many, many more by the time you graduate from high school and graduate from college, and we just want you to know that there's a place for you. So that's why we do these things, and it's definitely something that we continue to do. The next question. The next question is from Yumna Kalajo, and Yumna is from Clearbrook High School. Are you here? Yes, Yumna? Thank you. And Yumna's question is, how has Hispanic culture impacted your accomplishments at NASA and influenced the space program overall? That'll be for any of you all.
I mean, I guess one thing that we can say is that, now you see more Hispanic astronauts, right? And so that's one of the things that being more inclusive. And so I'm happy to hear that she's from Brooke. My son graduated from Brooke a few years ago. Yeah, and my daughter's going to Springs. Anyways, but yeah, I think that's one big way of, how just the Hispanic community is impacting what we do here at NASA. And so one of the things that I hear a lot when we go to schools, especially minority schools, they don't know that there's a lot of Hispanics here working at NASA. And so I think that one of the things that we actually accomplish when we go to visit your schools is that we just let you see that, yeah, there's a lot of us. It's not just, it's not just one Mexican, one from Ecuador, one from Colombia. There's a bunch of us. When I was growing up in Mexico, again, in that small town, I never, ever even thought of the possibility of working here at NASA. Okay, that was never even a dream. I mean, how can you dream, to work at NASA when you're growing up in Mexico? So you guys are closer. You guys are here. Okay, you guys have that opportunity. And as Danae mentioned, there's a lot of opportunities for you. My daughter, she's a senior now. She was a junior last year, so she participated in the high school aerospace scholars last year. She was part of a team that actually made it, and so she spent a week here. It was a great experience. So yes, there's a lot of opportunities for you. There's a lot of ways to get to where we are. So use those opportunities. I guess that's all I can say.
Thank you, Pedro. The next question is from Carlos Diaz. He's from Ollie Middle School. Are you here, Carlos? He's there in the back. Thank you. Thank you for being here. His question is, where and what do you see NASA exploring in the next 5 to 10 years?
I will go ahead and take that one. So I'll say a few things. So when we look at what we're trying to do with NASA, there's several routes that we're looking at. One of them is, what are we doing on low Earth orbit to better understand what's happening to our own planet, to respond to any emergency that is happening? So we're looking at satellites on that area. Another track that we're also taking a look at is the solar system itself. How far can we actually go? Are we going to Mars, Jupiter? I think next month, we're also launching a new spacecraft that will go to Europa, which is one of the moons in the outer planets, so that we can understand what the composition of that moon is. Now, but all of that is to help us further our understanding, now tying it to humans as well. So when we think about Artemis, we're also now talking about going back to the moon, staying on the moon, not just a few times, but actually have a permanent presence of humans in the moon, and then taking a hop from there through Gateway, which is a spacecraft that will be just like the space station, but in the middle, to then go to Mars, to take humans to Mars. So I will tell you that I was thinking about this, and your question is great at the time that it came in because of the prior question. When we think about what we have brought as Hispanic to NASA and to our workforce, and then I think about the fact that we're looking to the future, taking humans to other places, really what we're talking about is taking all the countries that would like to participate, get all our friends together, get the band of countries here, and then just go to a place that we haven't been before together. So to me, really what I see the future in the next 5 to 10 years is that we are gonna go to the moon, and we are looking to go to Mars. Now, after that, the dream of us exploring as Star Trek is certainly way closer, right? And so I think that that's the thing for me that keeps me excited about working here.
Thank you, Diana. The next question is from Alex Lopez from Taylor High School. Alex, are you here? Yes. Alex's question is, with the current rate of technological advancements, do you foresee in our lifetime a civilian colony or settlement of celestial bodies like the moon or Mars, and if so, when?
Let's see, so when we were, when I was part of Gateway, we were looking at, and also Artemis, so we were looking at basically those exploration missions, and so the exploration campaign includes phases, right? And so we first go to the moon, we establish a base, we do things on the moon that we're gonna use then to learn and then use them, or do the same things on Mars, extracting water, processing water on the surface of the moon, and then doing the same thing on the surface of Mars. On your lifetime, yes. Definitely. I don't think I'll be working those missions. I think it's gonna be you guys. One of my earlier dreams was to become an astronaut. I don't think I'm gonna accomplish that dream, and so, yes, I think it's gonna be you guys. You guys are gonna be the ones working, defining, putting together the plans for the base on the moon, how we're gonna get to stay there for longer than just a month, and then all the technologies that we're gonna need to then do the same thing or something similar on Mars. So yeah, within your lifetime, yes. My lifetime, I'm not sure.
I'd like to add a little bit to that. I work really close with the groups that are architecting what, the future lunar missions would look like, and we do a lot of simulations. So I agree that your generation for sure will be looking at colonizing and how life in, the moon and different planets would look like. We are making great strides to making sure that that's safe and that it makes sense when we get there, how we get there, and open the doors for you guys to, live there. So we're working really hard to make sure that you have a good ground base to pick up where we leave off and, go further.
One last student question that we have here is from Kayla Hong from Pasadena Memorial High School. Kayla, are you here? If you'll stand. Maybe, there she is, Kayla. Kayla's question is, are you still paying for your student loans? And after high school, did you immediately know what you wanted to do? Did you start working immediately after college? Anyone want to talk about that?
I would like to answer the first part of the question.
Okay.
Which is, there are scholarships and funding available for students like yourselves to pursue many different fields, but STEM in particular. So don't pay for your own school. So don't take out any student loans. Get somebody else to pay for it. There are many, many programs and things available through NASA and other organizations to help you out there.
I'll answer the opposite side of that. I wish I had someone like Alicia tell me that when I was younger. I took out a lot of student loans, so do not do it, in my perspective. I will be your mentor in that. Yes, I am still paying for my student loans. It was a significant amount. I actually had my parents do it for me, and when I got really good jobs with really good salaries, I had to take over their loan because I did not want them to expect to pay for my education. I'm blessed that I have a great salary to compensate for the high amounts of student loan payments that I have to make. So I'm grateful for the opportunities that taking them out gave me, but I really wish I had looked a lot harder to gain those scholarships and really other options. I don't regret going to the universities that I did. I went to a private, it wasn't public. I went to Embry-Riddle for my undergrad, and it's very expensive. So even though I had scholarships, it didn't really do much for me. I made great connections. You know, I always say if I had gone to a different university, I probably would have changed my majors, you know, dozens of times. But it was a great experience. I just wish I had looked harder. I wish I had taken the time to do the research. I think at the time I felt very pressured to make a decision and just go for it. And I didn't really do my due diligence and searching for opportunities for scholarships or really searching alternate schools that I can attend that were more affordable to reach the same goal. I knew I wanted to do aerospace engineering, and I was a victim of like, hey, this is the best school, you have to go here. The truth is you don't really have to. There are many great schools with great aerospace or engineering programs that you could really thrive in, so.
Let me add from the other side as well is, well, first of all, excellent question, very strategic perspective about where you want to go. I will tell you that with that same mindset of being strategic, do the calculation on the other direction. How much money can I actually earn with the job? So it's a balance, is wherever you are, but one of the things that is very interesting when I put myself back in your shoes, the idea that I was going to get a student loan or that I was going to own a lot of money was daunting and scary. But then when I connected that to what are the jobs that I actually want to do, and recognize that those jobs and the pay grade and the bracket of that is high, the STEM jobs paid really well, then now you're doing the balancing of, do I commit myself to this understanding that my job is going to pay me a lot later? And then stick to what you want, right? It's going to be hard. Nobody said it was going to be easy. But the fact that you know what you want to do, it also helps you realize where you can land financially. You could take a smaller loan and maybe do a different career, but maybe the pay grade will be also smaller. So balance those things out. Yes, you're going to have to pay your student loans. I also took student loans, but I recovered from it quickly as I was doing my STEM career. Now, with the second question of did I know when I finished high school, the answer is no. For me is no. When I finished high school, my perspective was to immediately go to work because I needed money. Immediately go to work, immediately help my family, and then pay as much as I could returning back. So this is why when I think about loans, I was super scared. But then when I thought about, wait a minute, I actually can do more than what I'm doing now. I actually can do more than, you know, working in a little market on the corner or cleaning. I can do more than that. And I looked at those salaries, then I said, forget it. I actually know what I want to do in my heart, and I'm going to go for it. So it flipped for me, where I actually asked myself, what's the hardest thing that I can do? So I went from what's the easiest, more convenient thing to what is the hardest thing I can do, and what's the return of that? And that's when I decided I wanted to do space.
And I want to expand a little bit more on that idea of, you know, what you can do now to prepare yourself. This is especially for the high school students. Right now, if you're a junior, senior, or even as a sophomore or freshman, this is actually a critical time to start exploring as to what, you know, scholarship opportunities there are for going to college. because you'll be surprised. There's some scholarships that offer basically a full ride for a 4-year university for undergraduate, college. But essentially, a lot of those scholarship opportunities, they have deadlines, of course, that you have to adhere to. You want to be able to meet those deadlines, and just kind of knowing those resources early on, I would say for me, really helped me so that I won't have to worry too much about borrowing loans as an undergraduate student. Once you go further, if you want to get your master's or PhD, it may be a different story, but I know even for PhD, for graduate students, there are resources, fellowship programs that you can apply to, and all of us, we know a lot of these resources, so if you have any questions as to what specific programs there are for being able to apply for those, just let us know, and we're here to help you.
I was just going to say one thing, and so what scholarships, fellowships, all those things, all those means of going to college. A good friend of mine, Jorge Sotomayor, he always says that your future is shaped by what you do today. He says, el futuro tuyo será como lo que haces hoy define tu futuro. And so all of you in middle school, 9th grade and 10th grade, juniors and seniors, I guess you're closer to graduation, but as you know, you guys need to understand that to get those opportunities, you got to work your off. Okay, so a lot of those scholarships are, I mean, if needs-based, great, yes, but then the academic ones, yeah, you gotta work your off and get the best grades that you can. I was blessed. I went to high school in South Texas, and so I know I said that I had to recover 2 years, but just working really hard, I was able to graduate as valedictorian, and so I got my first year free. I got a full ride to study engineering at the University of Texas Pan American, which was a campus in South Texas. They had soccer, so had everything that I wanted. And so I was able to play soccer and study engineering, and with the scholarships, I actually didn't have to pay anything. And it was because of that hard work. So work hard. It's possible. Otra vez, sí se puede. Just work hard. Okay, and then when I graduated high school, I knew that I wanted to do engineering because I love math and science. I was in every UIL competition related to math and science that was available, but I never again thought that I was going to be working here. I thought I was going to be designing cars or something. But yeah.
Thank you, Pedro. So we're gonna get close to wrapping up. I do want to add just a little something to going to college and what that does as far as giving you options. As a graduating high school senior and as a family whose mom was an educator in public education, education was critically important. There was no question in our family that going on to college and getting a degree was something that we had to do. What I didn't really appreciate at the time was that my parents had worked really, really hard, and they had not had the chance to experience what college life is. They didn't know what university life was. And I remember talking to friends in high school, and when I went to graduation parties at their homes at the end of the year, I saw slideshows. Back then there weren't PowerPoints and there weren't projectors. They were literally slides that they showed. And they were pictures of my friends when they were with their parents at college football games, and they were wearing college jerseys and t-shirts. They were visiting campuses as 5-year-olds, as 10-year-olds, and the impression and the impact that it made on them and what they knew when they were graduating from high school, what it meant to go to college, looked different than what I heard as a child. And so what I think about and what I want to encourage you and what I think you've heard from everyone today is finishing is very, very, very important. Take the time that you need, explore what those resources are, whether they're scholarships or fellowships, if they are loans, and if you have to do some of it on your own. And if you have to work and pay for school and do it at a pace that fits what you can afford, at whatever it takes, absolutely finish. Because when I finished my undergraduate degree, after 8 years, and I got to get a master's in less than 2 years, and 20 years after that, deciding to start a PhD. I'm doing that today, and you never stop learning. You always focus on that, and you will find a way to get through school, and you will have so many opportunities. And so I really want to encourage you. I think that's been the key for everyone who's sitting here, is that education was the path to possibilities and options, and we ultimately want that for you. And so I just want to encourage you with that. So with that, let's thank our panel today. I told you they were amazing and inspirational. I love getting to do this. It's a privilege to work at the Johnson Space Center. It's an even greater privilege to share a stage with people who are as accomplished and as passionate and share a bit of the culture and cuisine and values that we all grew up with. And so thank you all for taking the time to do this today. I also want to thank the NASA family. You heard family many times today, for joining us in person and online, and for supporting NASA's Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations. Season 2 of NASA's award-winning Spanish podcast series, Universo Curioso de la NASA, debuted earlier this week, and so please be sure to check that out. And to the students, you can learn more about NASA internships and other STEM opportunities by visiting intern.nasa.gov or by going to stem.nasa.gov. For everyone here today, you may never leave this planet as an astronaut, but you absolutely have the chance to explore endless possibilities. For many of us, our families were the earliest explorers we ever knew. They left home countries, they left families, they traveled miles to places that they had no network. And even though they never left this planet, they started opportunities and dreams. And so we encourage all of you to do your best, and we look forward to seeing you in the future as an intern, as a student, participant, and ultimately as an employee. Thank you so much for joining us. We also have a special message today that we want to play for you, and so I believe would you like to introduce that, Danae?
We have a special message for you that was pre-recorded, but definitely created with you, this audience, in mind. Enjoy.
Bienvenidos, amigos. I'm NASA astronaut Frank Rubio, and I'm honored to be here with my NASA family as we go further than ever before with the Artemis program and exciting opportunities in low Earth orbit. During my 371-day mission to the International Space Station, I had a unique perspective of our home planet and the amazing things we can achieve when we cooperate and work towards a common goal. Our international crew works as one team. The diversity of backgrounds and expertise makes us stronger. I want to recognize and thank our exceptional Hispanic workforce, the pioneers of change, whose contributions are vital to NASA's success. Your dedication, ingenuity, and commitment have an impact on NASA's mission every day as you help to shape the future of space exploration. To the students here today, you are the Artemis generation. One day, you will be the engineers, scientists, support teams, and astronauts pushing the limits of space exploration and discovery from the moon to Mars and beyond. Seek opportunities to learn and grow, both in your studies and in the wider world. Stay true to your dreams, and remember that your heritage, culture, and story are your strengths. With strong roots, you can reach the stars. Today, you will have the opportunity to meet with and learn from accomplished leaders and professionals. Whatever you want to achieve, someone in this room can help guide you on your journey. Keep exploring and following your passions, and let your voice be heard. I can't wait to see the future you will build. Bueno, amigos, saludos, adelante y a las estrellas.
What a wonderful event this has been, and we want to thank everybody who was here in attendance representing all of the local school districts and our partners who have helped to make this opportunity possible. We want to encourage you guys to know and understand that Space Center Houston is a part of your community and that you are always invited back. Don't let this be a one-stop. And then also, we would like to, again, just celebrate the Hispanic Heritage Month by applauding right now for the panelists who have shared with you information about their life experiences, as well as some things that you can consider going forward as you travel through the trajectory of life. We're grateful for your participation, and thank you for attending.